Hey everybody, I think this is finally working now. I don't know what was going on tonight. The whole world must be streaming on YouTube or something. So anyway, Mike Lowe here. Just doing a really quick stream. Not going to be a game tonight or anything like that. We're just going to be looking at the really where things are at in this franchise for May 1st. Before I do that, I wanted to, hey Daniel, I'm guessing everything's coming through okay. I see people in the chat. That's good. Let me let's check out the slider vault. See how things are looking. Let me turn down my YouTube volume. There we go. Looking at, I haven't looked at this since the last time we looked in the stream. I typically only check these kind of during the streams here, but getting good feedback from everybody. So let's see. 1.0 is still the most downloaded. 1.5 not up on the first page yet, but let's sort by rating. 1.4, 1.3, 1.5. I'm not getting as high of the ratings, but again, I could really see people using 1.5 or 1.4. I would still recommend the defense and pitching sliding, or I should say sliders, from 1.5 regardless. But if you are having a little bit, if you found 1.5 a little too easy for hitting, I would say go ahead and use the hitting sliders and the pitching sliders for the AI for 1.4. You could definitely make kind of a hybrid of those two for sure. But yeah, I'm really happy with 1.5. They've been pretty good, and we'll see. Again, I've been using all of these slider sets in this particular season that we're going to take a look at, and I'm seeing some pretty cool things. I think you'll see some things that are pretty predictable with this Tiger team. I mean, they're not a very good team, and me being kind of I would say I'm a good player at MLB The Show. I'm definitely not in an elite status or anything like that. It's they're playing. I mean, truthfully, better than I thought. But it's actually kind of similar to real life. Last year, right? The Tigers. I mean, in real life, the Tigers were really bad last year. They had the first pick in the draft this year. But the first month, like they were hovering around 500, right? And they were kind of hanging in there, and people were kind of optimistic and excited. But of course, that's a bunch of baloney. So we see similar things, but there's some big differences with this team versus the team last year. Obviously, I mean the real life GM Alavila made some changes, but we've also made some changes to the team here in franchise. So again, we are at May 1st. Since the last stream, the last few things that have happened, I didn't stream Wednesday, so actually our last stream was Sunday. We had the off day, so we saw this game live 7-5, and then we went into New York, won the first game, got our butts kicked on Wednesday's game, and the season finale there with New York was a 3-1 loss. Or I'm sorry, 3-1 win. And here we are at May 1st. I have to still get caught up here. I have not played the Friday. It's been a busy week for me with just real life stuff going on and NFL draft. I mean, it's gotten busy. So I'm about a day behind where I want to be, but I figured this would be a good time just to kind of pause and take a look. So yeah, I know some people want to chat about the NFL draft. I will say this stream is going to be shorter. I'm going to jump onto another stream here right after this one for NFL head coach. We're going to do episode 2 of that NFL franchise. So again, we'll do a lot of football talk then. So definitely check that out. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. When I disconnect this one, I'll switch over to the PS3 and we'll get the new stream up for that. It'll only take me, less than 5 minutes, not even that, probably, to get that up and running. So, yeah, we'll look at monthly stats, Corbin, for sure. Dolphins, yeah, Dolphins had an interesting draft. I mean, I think they did a really nice job of truthfully playing the Detroit Lions, who are my team. And I thought they executed that really, really well. And maybe the flip side is if you feel the Dolphins had a rough rest of the draft, I think the Lions did a pretty decent job. And I'm going to talk more about that for sure. But let's go ahead and just look at the stats here. Yeah, DeAndre Swift was an interesting pick for sure. I like the pick overall. Overall I like the pick. Again, discussion for another time here. But so what is going on in this franchise? May 1st. Let's start kind of at the top level, right? Standings. Tigers are 15-16. We have scored by far the least amount of runs in our division, and we have given up the second fewest runs. So we've been in a lot of low-scoring games. We're 5-5 over our last 10 games, 7-11 in the division, 8-8 at home, and 7-8 on the road, which is nice. We're having a hard time in night games, but again, these stats don't mean a whole lot there in night games. We've only played 13 night games. There's nothing to really pull out of that. We have a 2-game deficit here from the Royals, who we are now starting. Our next series is actually against the Royals. So very early on, a 3-game series, technically, from our standpoint. It's a battle for first place in the American League Central. We have gotten our butts kicked, though, by Kansas City. We have not beaten them a single time. 0-1, 0-2, 0-5. So we've played them 5 times, and we've lost every time. So maybe the tides can turn here. We do head to KC before coming home for some interleague play. We get a day off, and then a nice home stretch coming up after this big series. So that's kind of what's looking ahead. We go to some National League parks this month in May. So again, just looking at the standings, we can just do it really, really quick around the rest of the American League. Astros leading that division by 4.5 games. In the American League East, it's the Red Sox and Rays who are tied with the Yankees and Orioles right there in the mix. Blue Jays off to a really, really rough start. The American League wild card doesn't really mean a whole lot there, because you can see we're a game and a half out there. If we go to the National League, Braves 2 games up on the Marlins, Phillies 2.5 on the Nationals, Mets falling behind. Brewers with a nice lead, or I shouldn't say a nice lead, but a half-game lead over the Reds, 1.5 from the Cubs, and then trailing behind there 4.5 and 5 games respectively are the Cardinals and Pirates. And the National League West, the Dodgers just really putting a whooping on the division here so far. 3.5 game lead, 22 wins. They look to be the best team in baseball, I believe. But Diamondbacks hanging in there at 19 wins. 3.5 game back on the Rockies, Giants, and unfortunately the Padres. Just really bad. I mentioned on the last stream they're probably the worst team in the league right now. So that's sad to see there. And there's the National League wild card. Again, the Dodgers, that 733 winning percentage, look to be the best team. They are by quite a margin there. So, all right. So just kind of working from the top here. I want to make sure there's a few things I wanted to go over with everyone. Let's see. Don't forget, when you get to a new month, I guess the first thing I can tell you is you want to adjust the trade slider. And you don't have to, but my recommendations I've been using the last few years, they haven't really tweaked kind of the frequency of trades. And I know a lot of people freaked out if it's at default. There's all these crazy trades. This game's out of control. That's just the game balancing. You're not going to see that every season in the beginning. But if you're like me and only play 1 year, then you will. So that's why I have it tuned way down, this trade frequency. So I'm going to the Operations Sports slider thread that I have, because I don't even remember what I put this at. So I have to go check myself. But I'm using the Tap-A-Talk app. Very, very helpful, very quickly to get over to that thread. And then I do this on the first of every month. It's always a good time to kind of pause and just take a look around, make sure you got things how you want it. And so we use 5 for spring training, 1 for April. We kick it to 3, right? Make sure that's 3. 1, 2, 3. 3 for May and June, and then we'll go to 4 for July until July 29th, and it goes to 10 for the trade deadline. So that's kind of what's happening there. We are going to apply that. We're not going to save that. So again, that's not a new slider set. That's just a monthly adjustment that I tend to do. So we looked at standings. Let's look at players of the month in this particular league. So Shane Bieber, we've faced him a couple times. I think we beat him once though. Well, I guess we didn't get the loss. I do think we won one of the games that he started. So you can see there, Rookie of the Month, Player of the Month, and Pitcher of the Month for the month of April. I don't think they have a March. Nope. And in the National League, Cole Hamels, Pitcher of the Month, Player of the Month, Garrett Cooper, and a Rookie of the Month, Dylan Carlson. So there you have it. Again, very, very early, but those are the Players of the Month. We will remind me to look at the All-Star voting, because there's a couple Tigers actually who are in the mix for potential. Again, we're only 1 month in, but there are a couple Tigers who are on that list. And when I say list, I mean like on the first page. I mean, if you scroll through, you'll find your guy anywhere, but on that kind of first page of potential players, they are in the mix. So I had someone posting on the YouTube channel. I think I have notifications turned off because I get pinged on left and right, and I just end up losing my mind trying to catch up. But I did notice a comment saying, hey, I don't see any injuries, or I'm only seeing them for my team. It's funny because I've had people say, I see no injuries for my team, but everywhere else in the league. And I have injuries, but nowhere else in the league. I am definitely seeing plenty of injuries. I mean, we had Jacoby Jones go down for 6 months. He's out for the year. It happened in spring training. But there are a lot. Nothing crazy. This was injuries at 6. I feel like this is a pretty realistic amount. I mean, truthfully, you could even have some more, but you're just going to run out of minor leaguers. So we leave it at 6 when really 7's probably more realistic. But there are plenty of injuries here. Now, this is, again, really 2 months in because I like to simulate. I'm just flipping through here quick, but I am simulating all of spring training, which generated some of these injuries. So, but it's the same engine of being applied there. But we have a few teams, like I know some of these teams have like a scrollable amount of injuries. Look at this, Baltimore, and I think San Francisco, scrollable amount of injuries, right? So I'm definitely seeing injuries. Um, and that makes it really fun. That makes it challenging. So that's pretty cool to see. I'm saving stats just for a second because I know that's what we want to see, but just I want to go through a few other things just to, um, I always recommend taking a look at the trade block. I will save you all the details, but there's a couple guys that I am kind of looking at for the Tigers potentially. We're only a month into the season. We're below 500. To even be talking about potentially being buyers is kind of ridiculous at this point. But if I were today, the two guys that I'd be looking at for this team potentially would be Josh Bell's one of them. I like Josh Bell because I could put him in the outfield. I could even put him at first, and then move Crone to DH and move Cabrera from DH to third if we wanted. Candelario has been pretty underwhelming. And so that would really kind of replace Candelario in the lineup if we did that shifting around. Could also move Cameron Maybin over to left field and put Josh Bell in right, but I really don't want him playing. He would actually be our DH, come to think of it. I'd leave Crone at first base and move Cabrera to third. So we'd sacrifice a little defense at third, but we'd get a much improved bat, obviously, a switch hitter, and really somebody that we could actually work with into the future. He's arbitration eligible the next couple of years. And after that, we'd probably let him walk because he'd be, approaching into his like young 30s, and maybe we'd bring him back, but we certainly wouldn't have to. So depending on the kind of deal that Pittsburgh might be looking for, he is a guy that's on our list. The other guy, I have to try and remember now, I believe it was Delino DeShields Jr. From a division rival, Cleveland. And I thought he would be actually a pretty good player to put into center field, and we could move Victor Reyes over to his primary position in right, and then we can move Cameron Maybin into left. So again, this would be not really much of an improvement on the bat, but it'd be more of like kind of like a long-term move. He's 27, so he's really just kind of hitting his prime here. Probably won't get a ton much better, but he will get better, and it gives us some really much-needed speed. He could also be a really nice bench bat. But again, I don't really think he's got, with that kind of potential in that age, it's probably not something we want to use as a bench bat. So legally, technically, Cleveland's not supposed to be able to trade this guy. Unless did they trade for him or sign him? I think they traded, so I guess they could. But anyway, he's putting up really good numbers, so he would most likely start for us, 62 at bats here. So again, I'm not really sure why Cleveland's looking to move him just yet. But those would be two guys that the Tigers would be looking for. So let's dig into stats. Let's look at some team rankings, and we can even tally up my team batting average, ball in play. And actually, I did that earlier, so just to save you the hassle, the Tigers right now, we have a batting average, ball in play after 1 month plus of like 266 or 268. It's low. It's really low. Usually, your worst team in the majors will be about 280. But again, it's a small sample size. We're trending up. I think with especially 1.5, that's helped out me. It's helped out kind of my scrubby team. We hit 3 home runs in the last game, for instance, but that's I think only the second time all season we've even done that. So it's definitely helped. But batting average, we are at the bottom of the league still right now. So again, not a huge surprise. I mean, we are just struggling with the bat. But CJ Cron had 2 home runs in the last game, and it was a really, really tight game against the Yankees. I think we won 3-1, and all 3 of our runs were solo shots. So he had 2 of them. So again, a really, really tight game. At bats don't really matter. Runs scored towards the bottom. Again, not a huge shock. This team's bad. They were like 28th, like across the board when I took them at the beginning of this franchise. Hits again. as you'd expect, very, very low for the Tigers, 226. Doubles, we're at ninth, and again, a lot of that's Comerica Park, very, very spacious. It's you probably see more triples typically. We're very slow, so a lot of those would be triples, and some of those very early would be home runs when the game was patching power every third day. It felt like. So a lot of those, they all just kind of got lumped into the doubles bucket. But this is trending in the right direction now. This was like third or fourth, if you remember from like a few weeks ago even. We're like, whoa, we have a lot of doubles. So this is trending back to like kind of the midline, which is not that it has to be midline, but it's just good to see it kind of trending back into a realistic range. Triples, again, usually you see Tigers with even more triples than that, but as I just mentioned, we have such slow speed that there aren't too many guys who are legging out balls into the gap for triples. And so home runs, we are still last in the league there. But again, nothing too insurmountable. There's just not a lot of power. Even Miguel Cabrera, he has 0 home runs right now. And it's not because other guys aren't hitting them. It's just he's just not a power hitter anymore right now, unfortunately. Runs batted in, again, towards the bottom. Our offensive numbers are going to obviously be, towards the bottom. I don't steal a lot of bases. We're tied for last in steals. Again, not a lot of speed. Caught stealing is the least amount, as you'd expect. Our stolen base percentage has actually gotten worse because I've gotten a little too aggressive with like pass balls and stuff like this, and like I'll try to go back to first and they throw me out, and I believe they register that as a caught stealing. I'm not for sure on that. I'm not sure if the game does that or not, but so stolen base percentage again, ninth, which is interesting. It just kind of tells me the rest of the league in sim games kind of sucks at stealing bases. The fact that that's ninth, but again, 1 month is still a very, very small sample size. Folks, you're talking about 15% of the season at this point. It's not a lot to look at. Right? I mean, it's enough we can start looking at things, but it's truly not a huge amount. So based on balls, we are doing a little bit better job than that. We're 22nd. But again, Tigers offense is pretty bad. Strikeouts, how nice is this to see? Not first in the league, right? And again, that's trending back to the midline, which is good. It was way, way, way too low. This is the first year I feel like I'm finally getting a really good grasp on swing and miss percentages for the user. I think putting it up to legend, I almost said Heisman, putting it up to legend and turning it to contact, just kind of the adjustments we made with legend have worked really, really well. So thanks for the suggestions on that. Those were coming in pretty early this year, and I think it really worked out nice. Slugging, we are 29th in the league, just ahead of Seattle. Again, just our offensive prowess is rough. On base, second to last. Look how bad Toronto is. My gosh. Total bases doesn't really tell us a lot. Plate appearances. This is an interesting one. If you're not striking out enough, you're probably leading the league in ground and double plays. And again, we're a little high there. And some of that's just coming from bad contact. Some of that's just me playing poorly. But again, we're not first or anything, so that's good to see. Or last, I guess. Don't really care about assists. Don't really care about that. Errors, let's look at fielding percentage. I get a lot of comments on fielding percentage. Again, we're 14th. I see no problems with that. We're I would say in a borderline above average to average defensive team. I would say above average. So I think 14th is pretty solid. All right, so moving to the pitching stats. Let me check the chat here to see if I'm way behind on anything. Where'd the chat go? Too many windows open on my phone. 1 second. Oh, there it is. It's minimized in a window. Let's see. So Daniel's 10 games into his franchise. Slider's playing well. That's awesome. Corbin's a Royals fan. Cool. Badgers here. Good. Human contact down the 5. Isn't it at 5? I thought it was at 5. Did I put it to 6 for 1.5? I can't remember. But yeah, like I said, any of these things you can bump something around like that. It's not gonna make or break anything. So anyway, ERA, Tigers are doing a much better job pitching. So they're 7th in ERA, and that's what's kept us in games. Specifically, a couple players that we'll be taking a closer look at. But you can see Daniel Norris has just been like, what the hell's going on with him? Like, just really red hot out the gate. But it happens, right? Look at some of these other guys on tops of these teams. This isn't like, oh, that's too easy. Look, Washington has almost the exact same thing. with their first two pitchers. Atlanta, almost the same thing with their first two pitchers. Boston, similar with their first two pitchers. So, and you can see it drops off pretty quickly. This is looking, of course, at starters. It's only listing starters. So we really haven't gotten great pitching from starting, but two guys at the bottom of our rotation, literally our fourth and fifth starters have been our best ones, whereas Matthew Boyd, our number one starter, he's been rough. But he's still better than the other guys, apparently. So there's ERA. We don't have any complete games, but most teams don't. You can see that's the total number of complete games that we have after the month of April, which is what I recommend being around. If you're around, 5 per month, again, that's going to put you at about, 30. And you could even go above that. I just try to keep it a little bit lower in the beginning. There were about, I think, 45 or so. So really, it could have gone above 5. If you're thinking, there's 6 months roughly in a baseball season. So, do the math. I mean, you want to be around probably 7 or so, 7 or 8 per month, and you'd be fine. So, and those are easy to generate. they won't take you long. And on default, you'll have a lot of problems. So again, shutouts. Not too concerned about shutouts. I don't think we might have. We have a couple. Yeah, we have 2. So 2 team shutouts. We don't have any complete game shutouts, but saves. Look at this, 13. So again, another thing that's kind of keeping us in is not just a couple starters who have been pitching well, but close games, winning close games. Now, some of that is like you can see there Vizcaino being really strong for us. But unfortunately, one of the biggest reasons why you're going to probably see an influx in saves is that you're just smarter than the AI in this game. You know how to manage a baseball game better than the AI. The AI, especially with their bullpen in this game, is quite weak. It's the biggest fault in the gameplay. I think it's worse than the defense, like fly balls, which got patched, I guess, today. But I use auto fielding, so that's really a moot issue for me, simply because of that. But the bullpen AI in this game is its biggest weakness as far as like AI gameplay. It's not even close. They did a really good job of last year, because last year I would have said even worse than bullpen AI was catcher defense. They did a really good job updating catcher defense this year. It is much better. There is a ton of new animations even with it. It's really, really nice improvement. So I'm holding out hope that they can get this bullpen AI. This was a tough year to like measure them on bullpen AI because of all the rule changes that were taking place, specifically with the 3-batter minimum rule. And not to mention, we don't even have any data for these guys to even be looking at because there's no baseball being played. So it's not like they can kind of patch this now. It's like, oh, we got, 5 weeks of baseball in, and here's what we're starting to see teams doing. Let's try to mirror this in our code. I mean, they can't even do that. At best, they can just take a guess or maybe, use other baseball simulation software or something like that. But so anyway, you're going to probably see an uptick in saves, even if you are a bad team, because you know how to close out close games much better than the AI is going to be. So unfortunately, that's how it goes. We do have 2 blown saves, but that's not that bad. We have some teams who are just blowing saves like crazy. That's like 2 a week. My goodness, what are these teams doing? Again, bad AI, right? Because it's not just your closers, right? This is again, one of the game's problems is they don't utilize their bullpen properly. They bring in scrubs and long relievers all the time to try and hold leads. And this is why you're seeing blown saves. It's more than just your closers aren't the only guy. You can see, look at all these non-closers in this list. You can see that it's a blown save does not just happen in the 9th inning with your closer. It can happen to any relief pitcher with any lead basically after the 5th inning, I believe. So that's what you can literally have more than one blown save in a game. So let's see, hits allowed. Again, we're still looking at our pitching at this point. You've given up quite a few hits, but we're able to keep the ball in the ballpark because, again, the AI managers are kind of stupid in this game. They like to hit and run and take weird extra bases this year for some reason, which I like that they tweaked the base running, but maybe it just needs a little bit of being toned down. But they're just not smart. I mean, it's just the AI is not baseball smart. To me, this game has always, the last few years, when you're talking AI gameplay, to me, it represents more baseball of like the 80s, like late 80s, where you saw more hit and runs, where you saw pitchers pitching 2 and 3 innings in a relief appearance. I mean, this is again like 70s, 80s baseball. Um, and I don't know where that came from because this game was not around then. The people making this game weren't around then, probably. So I'm not even sure what that is, but to me, that's unfortunately been the case. But again, I hold out hope. I mean, they've made some nice improvements this year, so hopefully they can do that either this year or next year at the very least. But who knows with PS5 what's going to happen, and being on multiple consoles starting next year. And I think PC, isn't this going to be on PC next year? That's going to be amazing for like modding. Might have to check that out. So runs allowed, again, we've done a nice job. We give up the hits, right? But when we hunker down and we finish out the job here. So 7th in runs allowed. Earned runs, I mean, it doesn't really say a whole lot just this early. Home runs allowed, again, 7th. So, I mean, we're doing it. It's interesting because this is like where our team's strength is in the minors is pitching. And it's like, well, we're already pitching pretty well. We need batters. Base on balls allowed. Look at the Dodgers. So if you're thinking like, oh, there's not enough walks, sure there is. I mean, it's really up to you if you're going to throw out of the zone or not. But look at the AI Dodgers, and I haven't played the Dodgers a lick. We haven't played a single time. That's all simulated. 67 walks. That's impressive. That's like barely 2 a day, 2 a game. So yeah, that's pretty impressive. Strikeouts. We are near the bottom, but again, not at the bottom. And it really just, for me, it's totally dependent on the pitcher. You can see our relief pitcher, Buck Farmer, who's kind of worked his way into a setup role, is our 3rd leading strikeout guy because we're getting them from the bullpen guys, not so much from the starters. And you can see some other teams here at the bottom with similar issues. So again, it matches up really nicely. Then winning percentage, we're just a tick below 500, which is a really big surprise. Some of that's we've just played some teams that have been really cold. Like we've played Cleveland a lot. You can see here. Who else have we played? Maybe towards the bottom. We played San Diego at home. So we've played it. We've gotten we've gotten a few wins off of these teams that just aren't very good. Even the Yankees. I mean, they're 13th now, but we took 2 out of 3 against them. So again, that's kind of what's going on with those stats. Now, I wanted to show you guys the All-Star voting, right? So I'll save you the suspense here. We have no position players who are appearing on these lists. We have no one on the first page of starting pitching, as you can see. None of these guys are Tigers. But relief pitchers, look who's at the very, very top. I allowed myself a couple free agent signings because this bullpen was so bad. And Xavier Cedeno was a guy that I wanted to get just kind of as like a lefty setup guy. Like he could come in if there was 2 out of 3 lefties for the 7th or 8th inning, and I would bring him in. He has yet to give up a run. He's pitched 16 and 2/3 innings. He's got 18 strikeouts, a whip of under .5, and he's 2-0. And he's only he's up to a 75 now because of his morale. But he was a 73 when I signed him. You can see he's exceeding his expectations. I would say, in the very least, he's exceeding his expectations. He feels like he's underpaid, which is understandable, I guess, for as well as he's pitching. But this curveball has just been his primary pitch. He also has the quirk. I mean, he's just killing guys with it. I mean, look at these numbers. He barely even pitched in the majors last year. He barely pitched in 2017. So this guy's kind of like an every other year kind of guy, apparently. But really, he hasn't had a successful season, really. 2018 was pretty good, and 16. So again, it's the even number year with him, apparently. I believe we signed him to an option contract. Let's see. Yeah, contract option both. So that 2021 is an option year. So we'll see if we can do that. And then if I go to closers, also look who's at the top. So this is one of the reasons why we're hanging in games with such bad hitting, is we are shutting teams down. If we have a lead going into the late innings, we have a couple guys who've just been lights out, right? So Aroydis Vizcaíno, 14 and 2/3 innings, 21 strikeouts, 1.23 ERA, a whip of .68. He's got where was I looking here? How many saves does he have? He's 11 for 11 in saves. He's pitched in 16 games, and again, 78 overall. His morale brings him up to a 78 from a 76 originally. And same thing, option contract for us. Signed him to be the closer. And yeah, he's working hard for that option. I mean, again, if we start to peter off and aren't going to be around at the trade deadline, these are definitely trade pieces. I mean, these guys are the two best relief pitchers in the American League for us. So that's been really exciting. I knew they were good. I didn't look at this that closely until earlier today when I was going through this, just to kind of see some things I wanted to show you guys. So really, really good. What else do you guys want to see? I'll take some requests. See the top batting average. Don't see any Tigers on the home run list. No surprise. Miguel Cabrera's on the mix there for doubles. We don't even have guys for at bats. I mean, again, we just haven't been getting through the lineup enough. Nobody for hits. Oh, I know what else I can show you. Something that I don't think any other slider site really focuses on, but hit by pitch. Oops, that's career number. So if I sort by hit by pitch, we've been hit by 4, 5, 6, 7 pitches. If I scroll through other teams, you're going to see similar numbers, right? Some are less, some are about the same, some are more. This is a really, really hard one to get. On default, you won't get it. On default, you're going to have a bunch of like this. It's going to be a bunch of zeros, maybe 1. Because a lot of this comes from the pitcher consistency. So you're going to see, yeah, so again, these look really good. I should say for your hit batters, the pitcher consistency. But this is a really, really hard one to get here. And again, the AI is impacted, of course, by the same slider, the pitch consistency one. So that's usually what helps with this. And I think it even says that in the description. So also what's helping is guys with good discipline, right? It kind of draws those balls more out of the zone and thus sometimes hitting them. So that's why you have a guy like Jeimer Candelario on that list, who's a little bit higher in those. So if we go to pitchers, I'm still getting a grasp. I'm trusting my catchers a lot now. I've actually thrown a lot of wild pitches. And some of those are just, I mean, I think we actually have the most. So we have 5, 7, we have 9. As I scroll through other teams, you can see there's some that are pretty close. Just looking at what some other teams have. These guys have even more than us. So wild pitches, again, a lot of times you won't be seeing these, and especially this year with the catcher defense, these will be even lower, which is nice. Most of these for me, a few of them are, they go through the catcher's leg or something like that, which is super realistic. But a lot of these are just like sliders that go way outside, to the backstop kind of thing, or what a lot of these are. So, but again, that's nice to see that those are popping up. Do you have a favorite game from April? Probably. Let's see. Let me show you the box score from the previous game. This wasn't my favorite one, but this was the game I played. When did I play this? Earlier today, actually. So, where am I going here? Box score. So, again, 3 solo shots for the Tigers. 3 runs, 7 hits. There's the 3 home runs, 1 double. This was a really fun game. It was tight. It was really the last couple outs for Vizcaíno. Where's he at? So he came in and gave up a hit. So again, we're up by a run. And I'm trying to remember who made the last out. We can probably figure it out from their box score. So Stanton made the last out. So it must have been LeMay who got on base. Or maybe, no, I think I got LeMay who out. And then maybe Judge, I forget. One of those guys got a hit. But I think it was LeMahieu. But anyway, Judge, we had to go through Judge, Torres, and Stanton with a guy on base and a 2-run lead. And there were a couple pitches that were like mistakes, where like I would let go and I'd see where the ball's going. And I'm like, oh no, like this game's tied. And I think he struck. I think he struck out the side this game, didn't he? Yeah, he struck out the side. So it was just like such a baller inning for him. It was like what I saved the video of, or there was, I think it was Farmer's inning. Same thing, super, super tight game. I think it was 2-1 at that point, and he had some guys on base. I think the bases were loaded, and I struck him out, and I like did a legitimate fist pump when I struck him out, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is when I know the sliders are working really well. Like I just fist bumped by myself, or like just pump my arm, pump my fist by myself, just sitting here on my couch, and I'm like, wow, this is super nerdy, but also super cool. That they're working that well, because I was nervous. It was in Yankee Stadium. Buck Farmer's been kind of a guy that I've started to rely on a lot more as a setup guy, and it's like, oh, I really want him to do well, and he did. So this was actually a really cool game. But some other cool games, there was that extra inning game against New York. I guess it was this one here, so just a few days ago, where Jonathan Scope hit why do I keep doing that? He hit a 2-run home run in the top of the 10th. And again, his quirks kind of came into play. He's a Road Warrior quirk player. He had 3 hits, and it was a really, really cool game to see in the 10th. I think I tweeted that home run out. It's on my Twitter account. So again, that was just really, really cool. So that's probably one of the games I remember the most. Let's see what else. I mean, you can see we've been, just a little bit streaky. We're really good on Thursdays. We're really good on Sundays. Like this weekend here, just a really nice weekend sweep. Yeah, LA's they're better now. They were so bad when we played them. They were super bad. Cleveland here beat us in a series. So just really hot and cold. I don't really think this team has an identity just yet, other than we're getting some really good bullpen pitching. But see those ranks there. I don't think those ranks update, or do they? Maybe they must, because there's no way my contact was that high. So those must be dynamic ratings, I think. I don't know. I don't know if those. I'm talking about the middle of the screen here. I'm not sure if those are legitimate updated things or not. But yeah, we got our scouts going. Oh, and the other thing I was going to remind you: check your training. If you're somebody who kind of does training, I usually once a month or so I'll go through and tweak it. I leave a lot of guys on auto. I kind of start them on auto, but if there's something specific I really want a player to work on, I will go in and intervene. But yeah, I usually look around because there's some stuff that I don't need them working on. I'll try to skip whatever it is the AI is having them do. But GM goals, there's nothing really to report here other than we're probably doing a pretty decent job. And if you think, boy, maybe these aren't hard enough, the Tigers shouldn't be this good. But I mean, the game wants me to finish over 500. That's my goal. That's crazy. So technically, I'm failing the goal. We are one game below 500. So it's not that far fetched by any means. And again, the advent of the wild card expansion, a number of years ago now, has really made it interesting for teams who are even hovering around 500. It gives them a shot. So anyway, that's really what's happening around the world here in my little franchise mode. Lots of games left here. It's kind of like a long journey, like across the ocean in a boat sort of journey, where it's like I can barely see land anymore. I mean, we're out in the boat now. We're into May, and no going back, but man, we still have a long way to go. So just pace yourself. That's why I'm trying to stay ahead of the schedule a little bit. I'm about 7 days ahead. So again, that's been nice. But I'm going to be jumping over to head coach, EA Sports NFL head coach, with the draft, really the important rounds here, rounds 1 through 3, wrapping up earlier. We're going to jump in. I'm going to be streaming it tomorrow as well, which will probably end up being in episode 3. But I wanted to jump in and do some NFL head coach streaming tonight. So if you hang on just a second, same exact YouTube channel, I'm going to be just switching over here and get that new stream up where we're going to be talking some NFL football and all of those great things. So first, again, I want to say thanks again for the support with the sliders. They feel like this year they've been more popular than ever. And thank you for the feedback. That helps me tremendously to see. The last thing I just forgot to mention earlier is I get asked a lot of questions that guys, like, I don't know the answers to. Like, they're just like, hey, why does the AI, like I saw it was one on YouTube. I can't remember, what the heck was it? But I mean, there's things like related to like the programming of the game, and I'm like, I don't know why they do that, or like, why are they only trading for catchers, or I don't know. The sliders don't control that sort of stuff. Like, I don't work for them. I don't program the game. I have no idea. So just kind of save some of that. I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. But I'm going to be jumping over to NFL head coach. I really encourage this stream. truthfully, I think it's better than the MLB The Show one. I think that this game is so awesome, NFL Head Coach, and it's an older game, but it's kind of fun to go back and kind of do a little throwback, looking at some of these older players and how, hey, the NFL draft was this weekend, and what perfect time to kind of get ourselves jumping into a football game a little bit. So anyway, I'm glad the stream worked. I thought I got banned from YouTube or something. I couldn't figure it out, but Corbin, thanks for that. I appreciate that. But yeah, stick around. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel because I think part of the reason why we're having some issues is like there are certain rights because I don't have enough people subscribed to this channel just yet. So again, we're trying to get people transferred over from my old account over to this one. So yeah, spread the word. I super appreciate that. Subscribe to that SSG YouTube, and then you can always find me on Twitter or on the SSG Discord. So I hope this helps. And again, your franchise will look very, very different. They all will, but that's baseball. There's a lot of moving variables. Your player skill, the team you're using, the team you're playing, the slider set you're using. I mean, hell, whether you have a headache that day or how focused you are. There's so many variables. Tweaking sliders yourself is okay. It's encouraged by me. There's nothing wrong with it. I move sliders in the middle of a game sometimes. It's not a big deal. There's too many other moving parts for one of those sliders to make a damn difference. You'll be fine. So anyway, I'm Mike Lowe. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you in just a few minutes.